And we are live. Welcome everybody to the Take a Stand live conference. This is a space where I'm interviewing and talking with 35 incredible women who are all sharing a story of triumph over trauma. Now, these are very personal stories. We do go a little bit deep. So if you feel the emotions bubbling up to the surface and something has been triggered, just make sure that you reach out to a friend. If you've got no one in your network that you can talk to, reach out to your doctor. If you are spiraling out of control and your emotions are all over the place, head down to the hospital. I've done it. Other people have done it who I'm talking to. There is absolutely no shame in doing it. And the truth is, it is absolutely part of your trauma recovery and healing journey that you seek the help it is that you need. So when I'm speaking to Chris, if Chris says something and you suddenly think, oh, that's really interesting, I'd like to learn more about that, Chris's details will be below the video. So please do make the effort to reach out to her through her website or whatever details are on in the description below. Chris will be more than happy, I'm sure, to talk to you. But I'm going to do the YouTube thing now, which I hate doing, but it has to be done. And that is, if you would like to support the channel, it's called Living Life Trauma Free. The whole channel is about trauma recovery and healing. Please consider subscribing. Click that little notification bell. If you're enjoying the content, please give a thumbs up. And also, if you've got a question for either myself or Chris, just pop it below in the chat box. We'd be more than happy to answer it for you. Okay, so I've done my little YouTube bit. Welcome, Chris.
Thank you for having me on. I can't wait for this. I'm excited. I've been watching some of the other interviews and sharing them all over social media. So hopefully other people can learn from everybody that's taken part in your week.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you very much for doing that. I really appreciate it. So, Chris, tell me a story. Obviously, you don't have to go into the full details, but can you just give us a taste of a story of where you've been in a situation where you've triumphed over trauma?
I thought long and hard about this, and I think the overriding thing for me is that I am still here. In a nutshell. So let me give you a bit of background. It'll just take a minute or two. So most people who know me will know that I grew up in 3 domestic violent households. I suffered mental, physical, sexual abuse at various times, along with my siblings who also suffered their own abuse within. None of us really knew any of the others that were being sexually abused at the time. We all thought, now with hindsight, that we were all protecting the next one along or someone else in the family by keeping silent and being good. You know, all of that cover up that goes on in families. You don't know what abuse is going on until you talk about it later on and go back with hindsight. So it's the trauma from all of that. I left home at 16 and I didn't know it was called trauma. I didn't know the symptoms that I was suffering at the time was anything to do with the abuse that I'd gone through. And I only found out that it was abuse when I went to friends' houses and saw how they lived. And then I compared that to what I was dealing with at home. And then I understood that it was something different and it was something not nice. So you need a comparison because otherwise it's just your normal. You don't know any different. Mm-hmm. And then from the age of 16, I thought, oh, I'm living on my own. I've got no money, nowhere to live, but I'm free. I make my own decisions. And that was so powerful for me, that freedom to live my life out of abuse. And every decision I made, it was down to me. If it went right, fabulous. If it went not quite so right, then I learn and I move on. But I was free. And that was just such an amazing feeling, even though, you know, I had to get myself jobs and get myself into college and do all of that malarkey. I then, for the next sort of 12 years, parked everything, put it in a box. That's my old life. That's not me. I don't need to bring it up. I don't need to share it with anyone. I'm just going to move on. And I thought I had dealt with everything. until I had got pregnant, first son, and I gave birth, and then I call it my breakthrough. And I then learned that all of that stuff that I'd locked away in a box was now coming back to haunt me, and it needed to be dealt with. So 2 years of a mental health slide. I'm carrying on, trying to be the perfect mum, trying to be the perfect management accountant, boss, in my job, trying to just do everything and be perfect at it and not let anybody know that I was struggling. And I faked it and I made it until the breakdown and the breakthrough happened. And then obviously everybody's like, but you're so strong, you'll get through it, da-di-da-di-da-di-da. And you do get through it and you do move on, but you need to do a lot of soul searching, have a lot of insight into what's going on for you. So that's when I started looking into, why am I suffering the way that I am? Why do I feel mentally and physically weak? Why do I feel vulnerable? What is going on? And then I mentioned to my doctor after one incident with my child that I'd been through abuse, and he said, no wonder you're feeling like you are. And he was the first one to actually acknowledge that the symptoms I was suffering was trauma. So that's when I started looking into things. So to cut a long story short, I've been on my journey of recovery since I was 28, since I realised how I lived my life was not best for me, being bulimic, being highly stressed, using exercise as a way of coping with the rage that I felt but couldn't express, and all of that kind of stuff. So, yeah, I'm still here and I'm still sharing my lived experiences to make positive change for other people. So that's my biggest thing, I think.
Yeah, wow. As you were talking about your siblings, I was just thinking it must have been, if you thought it was just happening to you and you were protecting your siblings, and then later finding out that it was also happening to your siblings as well, it must have been pretty devastating.
Yeah, I hear this quite a lot with intrafamilial abuse, where you think that, abuse is never right. We know that. But if you are being the one that's been abused, you think you're protecting the next one in the line, so to speak, but you're just not. Because if an abuser's within the family, if they want to abuse all children, they will. The physical and the mental abuse was out in the open. We all saw what happened to each other and we all supported each other in that. But if someone else in the family was being penalised, being abused at the time, mentally or physically, you almost sort of like stood back because you knew that if you stepped in and tried to protect, they would then turn on you. And that happened many times anyway. But in the end, it was almost like you had to step back, let them take it so you didn't take it, but next time you would take it. So it was a very chaotic and a very, as I said, there's no other word, abusive households.
Yeah. I love that when you left home when you were 16, that you had the realization that the decisions I'm making now are my decisions. I think that is absolutely fantastic. I know when I left home around the same age, and I didn't even know that I had the power to make a decision. I sort of just survival rolled on from one thing to the next. So it's fantastic that you had that sense of awareness, which must have felt quite, as you said, quite empowering.
It was very empowering, but also very scary. But when you literally do not have a roof over your head, and, I reached out to, I was trying to find out who could help me. And I went to the local church. I'm not, what's the word, religious. But I went to the local church because I thought, well, churches, they help people, don't they? So I went there and I just said, look, I need to move out of home before I moved out of home. Because of what's going on, can you help me? And they said, are you pregnant? And I'm like, no. And they went, well, no, we can't help you. And I'm like, what? I didn't know, being pregnant was a criteria for getting help from, coming out of a home full of abuse, but it was back then. So I realized then that the only way that I would be able to stand on my own 2 feet was to earn the money, but also get an education. So I went to college during the day and I worked 3 jobs to pay for my rent and pay for my bills. Yes, I was in a bedsit that was condemnable, but it was my own door and I had my own key to my own door, and what went on behind that door was all down to me. So that sense of freedom, that sense of empowerment way back then was immense. But, you know, I don't know about you, Wendy, but I felt like I was a grown-up from the age of 7, because when my mum left home and I was left living with my dad and a woman that was late to become the stepmother, I was the grown-up one looking after the younger siblings. So I really felt that I didn't have a childhood. I was an adult from the age of 7. That's how I felt. So from the age of 7 to 16, I was a grown-up anyway. I was making grown-up decisions. I was, you know, looking after myself, looking after others. So when I left home, and I didn't want to leave my siblings in an abusive home, I really didn't, but it was make or break for me. It was either get out or something was going to happen that I would regret, i.e. I would attack my perpetrator. And that's where it got to. That's where it got to. And that's what I wrote about in the book. This is my autobiography. So it's all in there, you know. Yeah, that's the first book. Come over here. Through the Eyes of a Child. Yeah.
Nice.
And my 3 siblings also wrote a chapter in this book to share their perspective of what they went through. So it's from my perspective, obviously, in the main, but they also wrote how they felt growing up. And it's I've not seen another book like it, to be honest, because we've also included in here lots of pictures. Well, not when I say lots, there's about 20 pictures in here from, you know, and that's the only pictures that we have. You probably can't see them, but but the only pictures I have from my childhood. So we've basically shared everything, not details of the abuse, because there's no point in that. It's triggering for people, but you know, what each of us experienced from our own perspective and how that interlinked. Yeah.
That must have been really healing for the 3 of you to do that. It must have been.
Yeah.
My book, when I wrote my first book,
Yeah.
I came up against so much internal resistance. I didn't know what it was at the time. I was like, why am I struggling to write this? Why is it such hard work? So it must have been when the 3 of you got together, working your way to navigate through that.
I've got to be open and transparent. I had a ghostwriter to help me with this, because we met up and I would then go and write, or I would record and then she would write it up, because it unleashed so much that I was in therapy whilst I was writing it. I couldn't do it otherwise. Like you, I tried so many times and it just wasn't happening. I would get so angry and I would want to go and do something. But obviously you can't. You know, we live in a society where violence is not condoned and shouldn't be condoned, but the
You'd
rage,
like to think so.
But the rage, you know, that comes up when you deal with some of this stuff that is suppressed deep, it's got to be dealt with. It's got to go somewhere, you know.
Yeah.
And so I wrote the book in the main, and then I offered it out to my 5 siblings, because there's 6 of us, and 2 of them didn't want to take part, and the other 3 did. So there's 4 of us in the book, but there are 2 other siblings as well, from my mum's second marriage, that said they felt that the story was mainly about us before they came along, but so much more happened after they came along in the second marriage that, you know, I really wish that they had had their voices heard as well, but they decided that it wasn't for them, and that's fine.
Yeah, I think we both know with what it is that we've lived through and that we've experienced, that there's a lot of denial. There's a lot of, you have to deal with it when you're ready to deal with it. You can't deal with it before then. There really is. we haven't spoken about it on the summit, on this event so far, and that is the denial that we go into or can go into around what it is that we've experienced for such a long time.
Well,
I mean, for me, it was like my
16,
late 40s.
Yeah, but I did it from 16 to 28, didn't I? In complete denial.
Yeah.
Because I just felt like I'm free now. So how I live my life and how I turn up in the world is me. I don't need to bring all of that because you know what, I don't know about you, but I just felt that if anyone knew about my past, they would see me differently. Like my sister always says, she feels like a stick of rock with damage and abuse written all the way through the rock, and she feels literally that she's got a sticker on her head that says I was abused, damaged goods, and she feels everybody can see her, can see that. And I said, but they can't. No one knows who's been abused if you walk down the street. You just can't. That's not how you feel though, is it, for some people?
No. Yeah. Because I was mainly brought up in care, I was institutionalized in care, so I was in it for like 13 years. I always felt at a disadvantage because I'd been brought up in care, that I was always, never not good enough, was never going to achieve anything.
Yeah.
I just found life really, really hard, really hard.
Yeah.
Couldn't fit in, was different. It was, I think some of that actually still lingers as well. I think
it does.
13 years and how 16 years with your parents, it's like, it's part of who you are. You just manage it as you get older.
Yeah. Well, as you said, you just survive, don't you? You survive until something happens. Then you may have the wherewithal to look into it, to change it, so there's a different outcome. But there's a lot of women that I work with that don't have that insight into themselves until they either pick up a book and read it. So my first book was A Boy Called It.
Oh, I remember. Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And my first proper knowledge around abuse was watching Oprah Winfrey and all of her programs. And then I'm like, okay. So then that's when I started reading more and more and more. And then when I started seeing what was going on in other people's homes, the love, the nurture, the care, all the normal things that you should have, but you weren't getting, it really showed up that what you were going through was not normal and was abusive. It's simple as that. There was no denying it, Social services were in our lives. The police were in our lives. Everyone knew, the school knew how bad things were at home. I told so many people, but so many times I was just, all of us, we spoke out in different ways. My brother ran away, for example. I spoke up. You've got an overactive imagination. No, surely that can't be happening. Well, we're not lying about this stuff,
Shocking.
It's shocking. And the thing is, you think it's not going on today, but it is.
Oh, it is.
Kids are being fouled left, right, and centre because people think, oh, it's not happening now.
I don't get because I see it as an epidemic. I'm sure you see it as an epidemic.
Absolutely.
The stats are crazy.
Yeah.
I don't understand how this is not a mainstream conversation, how this isn't in politics, how this isn't on people's agenda, how it's not even discussed in the workplace.
Yeah.
I just find it's odd.
Yeah,
it's really odd.
There's an apathy towards it, isn't there? It's just like, why is it so taboo when it affects so many people? The more and more I speak out about it, which is a lot, it's every single day,
I know.
the more and more people do come to the fore, and they either have experienced it or know someone within their circle that has experienced it. So it is really prevalent. And I don't know, Wendy, if you know, but I've been part of the VSCP, Victim and Survivors Consultative Panel, for the inquiry into child sexual abuse for 7 years now. and they're publishing their final report on the 20th of October, and that will highlight the recommendations that the government need to implement to better protect children of today and tomorrow, using the lived experiences of adult victim and survivors that have come forward in their thousands. Yeah, they can't ignore this. It has to be mainstream conversation, and action needs to be taken. It's as simple as that.
Yeah, I know you do a lot of work, a lot of advocacy work, which is fantastic. I follow you on LinkedIn, and I saw you post something the other day. I'm always reading the articles that you post, and I was fascinated by, going off topic a little bit, but fascinated by the post that you shared, which was about recognizing that care leavers are some of the most disadvantaged and marginalized people in society, and that council is bringing in some sort of scheme to recognize that is the case. I think it's something like, I hope I don't get this wrong, but it's something like 45% of young people that have been in care end up in prison. 45%. What the beep?
I know. Yeah, beep, beep. I know. What I know, obviously, I wasn't in care. My friend that you had on at the beginning of the week, Beverly Ann, who I work with very closely, and I love her dearly, was in care, and we grew up in the same area. Yeah. But one experience of mine, right? Our brother-in-law used to be a caretaker at one of the children's homes in the borough that we live, and he used to take us there to get us out of our stepmother's claws, so to speak, and we used to end up weeding the beds there to earn our keep. So here we was, abused children, weeding the beds in a children's home. We saw these little families of children, and I said many times, I want to join. Not knowing that a lot of abuse happens in children's homes, that I know now, obviously. But at the time, I felt my home life was so bad that I just wanted to join the children's home. I just so wanted to be one of those children. And obviously now, no, because I know what goes on in some of those children's homes, and the abuse that some have suffered, which has been horrific. But that statistic of 45% is staggering. But also, you're 16 or 18 and you're just kicked out on your own and expected to know how to live. It happened to me. I had to do it as well, but I'm not a care leaver. But the normal pathway of a care leaver, isn't it, is you turn that age, 16 or 18, I can't remember which it is, and you're thrown out and you're just expected to get on with life. And no wonder the young people get into trouble, because they just don't know what to do, don't know how to look after themselves.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's just I think what's sad is the amount of money that is invested into the care of children. Placements, foster placements, additional support. You're talking hundreds of thousands of pounds into one child. You could put a child into a private school and give them the best education in the country.
Yeah, but that doesn't suit them.
No,
the people that hold the purse strings.
It's not the right label. It's not the right label, is it?
No.
Anyway, I have digressed. I didn't mean to didn't mean to hijack the conversation. Sorry.
No, that's fine. We're speaking about all different victim survivors from different backgrounds, aren't we? And it's important to acknowledge.
Yeah, absolutely. It's all part of the complex.
Bigger picture. Because you often, I'm not saying in all cases, but often if you've got abuse within the home, that is when the child will be taken into foster care or will be taken into care. Not in every case, I know that, but in most cases. And some will get through the care system absolutely fine, but some will be abused over and over. They leave or not. They get into county lines, maybe. They get into a grooming kind of situation, or they end up in an abusive relationship as an adult. And the cycle just continues.
Yep.
So where are all these professionals that can intervene at an earlier stage and break those cycles and get these individuals on a path of being the best version of themselves they can be, reaching their potential? Where is all of that?
I think I did this very silly thing. I didn't know it was silly at the time. I didn't know what I was doing. But because I've been institutionalized, I then later on qualified as a youth and community worker. Fine. But then I went back and worked within social services for about 20 years.
Wow.
And because I was looking for answers to questions that I couldn't answer. Very toxic. But looking back now and looking back in at the culture of the organization, what I see is that there is so much secondary trauma being dealt with in the organization, blame, fear, scapegoating, that actually the staff aren't functioning properly. It's a really, teams are very toxic. They don't get the level of support it is that they need. They're working towards tick boxes, writing reports. Their focus is on the wrong things. So that then creates a odd dynamic. Rather than looking after the families and caring for the families, what that individual member of staff is experiencing is getting projected back onto the family and back onto the young people. And you just get stuck in this toxic loop of dysfunction. It's just completely dysfunctional.
Dysfunction. Yeah. You know, I know that social workers' caseloads are too high. Cases are often very complex, very time consuming, and it literally is the case that is shouting the loudest, as in its hierarchy of need on that day that will be dealt with. And obviously then children that cases that aren't quite at that higher level will just fall through the cracks. And so rather than blaming anyone in particular, the system does need to be looked at, and the support needs to be there for everyone to do their jobs properly, so children do not fall through the cracks. You know, in every institution, we know, don't we, that there are good people that go above and beyond, but also there are people that don't do their job. And if you don't do your job, can't do your job, then you shouldn't be in that job. But there's not enough new people coming through, and that's part of the issue as well.
It's organizational culture. I think the way the whole hierarchical system is structured, no, it doesn't serve the people that it cares for. It doesn't serve the people that it cares for, and it doesn't serve the staff it has who are employed and working within the organization. Because I would really, really like to believe that most people go in with the right intention. They go in with the best intention. They want to help, but then they just get swallowed up by the complexity of the organization, the structure, the interagency
bureaucracy.
Oh my God. So Chris, with the work that you do, is there a common thread that you see of people, a common issue that you repeatedly see?
I gave this some thought, because obviously I could go off on many tangents, but it's women struggling to actually know who they are. Who am I? What's my identity? What can I achieve? What do I want from my life? They haven't often even voiced any of that to themselves. So for me, I always say, when I don't know, over here, Breaking the Cycle book. This is my health and wellness book. Pardon?
Is that the second one? I know, because I think you've got three.
I have, but this one is a psychoeducational book, and my 8-week program is based on this book. And what I sort of like teach in a nutshell, the principles of the program, is that you have a right as a human being, and you are a human being, to be loved, nurtured and cared for. And often you've never had that. If you've been in an abusive family upbringing and then you've gone into an abusive relationship, you've never actually given that to yourself. No one's actually given that to you. You've always given out. So lots of people can't even identify or recognize that they've got a right to receive and be loved, nurtured and cared for. And learning about that self-care, you are allowed to care for yourself. And I always say to them, if your best friend was you and you knew your best friend had gone through X, Y, Z, and you knew that they were suffering in ABC way, what advice would you give them? You'd probably give them a hug. You'd treat them to something nice. You would do all the nice things for them as your best friend. You'd want the best for them. So why don't you turn that around and treat yourself the same way? Because you deserve it. But often every victim and survivor that I work with, they really have a hard time recognizing that they also deserve all of that. So when I say that, it's so simple and so common sense to a lot of people, but you don't feel it. You don't think it. You're so blindsided. You're so stuck in survival that you don't actually know that you've got options, you've got choices, you've got freedom. And often when I say that to people, they're like, oh, they get so scared because they don't know what to do with that information, you know?
Yeah.
And it's like even, learning to put boundaries in place, to stop being that people pleaser, to stop giving all of your energy away and keeping some of that energy for yourself so that you can protect yourself and so that you can nourish yourself. So putting those boundaries in place so you don't go down the road of being abused or being taken for granted or all of those kind of things. They go, okay, so so if I put this boundary in place, but people keep stepping over it. And I said, yeah, but they will until you keep going, no, this is my boundary. You're not going to keep overstepping it. And it takes practice. It takes practice. So you've got to start with something simple and small and then build up upon it. So all those kind of things, just bring it back to basics. All the things that we should have had as a child that was trashed by the abuse that we've gone through, rebuilding all of that.
It's like the unmet needs, isn't it? The unmet needs not being met as a child, going back and going straight back through them. I love that because it's such a conscious piece of work. And I think part of the battle for me was realizing that I actually had a choice, that I could make conscious decisions.
Yes.
I just didn't know how to make them. And I'm not being funny, but I actually didn't understand that until I was like 45, 46. It took me that long to realize that I had a choice.
Yeah.
So long.
So I say to people, the word responsibility, we are all responsible for our own lives. And often that's met with anger until I explain. I said, you're not responsible for what happened to you, 100% not. But you are responsible for your life going forwards. And if we break that word up, you have the ability to respond differently. So you don't, because you're so angry, maybe, not everybody, if you meet the world and everything that goes on in the world with anger, you're not going to live a very happy life. But if you respond differently and go, right, okay, I don't like what you're saying to me right now, Wendy, but I'm going to ask you, why is it you're saying that to me? Where are you coming from? Where are you sitting today? And then maybe I can just take the situation down a notch or two and get deep and then respond in a way that's going to be beneficial to me and beneficial to you. So sometimes it's best just to walk away. Yeah, that's the best option. So you've got to learn to know what battles to go after and what battles to go, you know what, my energy is going to be wasted here, walk away from it. But it's all trial and error, isn't it? When you've not had that as a child, as an adolescent, as I said, everything's been trashed. You haven't had that education growing up. You need to learn it as an adult, but often there's all these complexities all around it. So my book and my course breaks all of that back down.
Nice.
Gives the education, and then we talk as a group, and then we practice things over the 8 weeks. So it becomes more normal because you've practiced it, and then you can come back and say, actually, that didn't work for me. Why it didn't work for you, and let's try a different way, because it's all trial and error.
Yeah,
we're all
absolutely.
working progresses.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I really like that you're doing it as a group, and that you can talk and that you can talk it through. I think that's really, really helpful. Really helpful. Knowing what you know now, in hindsight, what would you tell your younger self?
I was thinking about this one as well, and I was also thinking maybe I can't say what I want to say.
Why is that? Because it's got an F word in it.
No, it's not got no swearing in it. But the situation that led to me leaving home at 16 was that I was sexually assaulted, and I took action then. I don't know if I can say it. I used my knee to harm the perpetrator by kneeing him in the private places. And I said, if you ever touch me again, you're dead. Okay. And I wish that maybe at the time, because of what had happened, maybe if I was able to protect myself a bit more, it could have put pay to any more abuse happen after I left home for other siblings. So read into that what you want. My message is, stick up. I wish I had the courage to stick up for myself more at the time, because I probably would have got away with the outcome as a child, teenager, but not as an adult. Yeah, that's how I feel, Wendy. And if people don't agree with me, that's absolutely fine.
I don't have to agree with you.
No.
It's the right person will hear it. The right person will hear it and will take strength from it. That's all. I think that's all we can hope. That's all we can hope for, is that, that lands with somebody, they hear it, and then they think, right, I'm going to do it.
But again, I don't condone violence. I hate violence. But at that moment in time, I just wish that I had done a bit more to protect myself. And also the second thing that I wish I'd done is record everything in a diary, so it could have been an evidential base for future criminal justice. So I think if there's any young person listening to this and they want to maybe pursue that later on in life, whenever it's right for them, that to start recording stuff, writing it down and keep it in a safe place, date, time, what's happened, so that it's an evidence base. Because, when your social care records have been lost, when the police records have been lost, when da-di-da-di-da-di-da's happened and there's no evidence, you haven't got a leg to stand on. But if you've got your own record, then, that's an evidence base. So that's another way of dealing with it without violence.
I'm not saying anything.
No, but you know what? So now in therapy, I know we're running over, sorry, but now I'm 52, right?
I hijacked it, so I'll let you run.
I'm having EMDR therapy, okay?
Right.
So it's going really deep into how the body physically responds to past incidences. Yeah. And in my therapy, I said to my therapist, if I tell you what I'm thinking, you might go to the police and report me, because what I'm thinking is probably not what a normal person would be thinking. And she said, in therapy, anything goes. You can say anything, whatever. We know that you're not going to go and do something outside, but if you need to deal with a certain situation in a certain way, using your imagination, then you need to do it. So when she gave me that permission, and when I knew I wasn't going to get into trouble, I would never do anything, Wendy. hand on heart, never do anything because I hate violence. But in order to deal with this deep rage at this one person that I have, I ended up in therapy, killing him and burning him. And you know what that did for me? It made me release that deep rage that I've held on to for 30 years. So there's a time, there's a place to do this kind of work, and you would never do any of that in real life because you know it's wrong and it's just not the right thing to do. But in therapy, you can do what you need to do to release that deep stuff.
Yeah, you just need a safe container and a space to do it in, and also to have someone with you.
So it's okay.
Yeah, so it's okay. I think also to help you to see a new, well, not help you to see, but to create a fresher perspective, a new perspective, a new way of seeing things, a new way of dealing things. And you can't do that unless you delve into some of the complexity of it and express what it is that you're thinking. Because if you don't express it, you can't change it. As soon as you express it, you instantly changed it, the dynamic and the energy of it.
Yeah. And again, I want to caveat all of this. I'm not a violent person, right? And I hate violence. But that rage that was turning up in my life every single day, especially since I've been in therapy for the last 3 years, and I have to contain it because I've got a professional job and all the rest of it, it wouldn't shift. It wouldn't shift with speaking about it. It wouldn't shift with, just general therapy. It just would not shift. So she said to me, you need to go and do some boxing. I'm a fitness instructor, so I do a lot of fitness every single day. That wasn't touching the sides, right? So she said to me, you need to go do boxing. You need to go and smash plates, all in a safe way. But I said, that ain't going to do it. That's not going to get rid of this deep-seated rage. And she said, right, okay, what is it you want to voice? What is it you need to do? You can do all of that in this room right now. And I was crying, I was screaming, I was saying, I really don't want to be doing this, but I just need to get this out of my body. And that is what it was, an expression of that deep anger that I had towards this person. And I think people need to hear this, and they need to know that they are allowed to express how they're feeling in a safe space, so that they don't go out and do something, that might get them into trouble. Because how many people, right, out there that have got a criminal record because the only way they've dealt with what they've gone through is by imploding, drugs, alcohol, or exploding and actually assaulting somebody. I know so many young people that have got into fights at school. How many of them are expressing their rage from what they've gone through? Yeah. So it's just a safe way of expressing what you're going through, but in a safe space.
Yeah. It makes perfect sense to me. It really does.
It probably won't to other people, though. They're probably going, "Oh, we've got to stay away from Chris."
No, I don't think so. I don't know. I don't think, not in this line of work. I don't think so.
Yeah, you're right.
I think, there are so many. One of the things I wanted to get across was to really show that there are so many different ways to deal with what it is that you've experienced, not just the going to the doctors and going for therapy. Yes, that's great. But there are other things that people can do to help to get some relief, to start to explore what's happening to them. And I actually think that is a really great example of what it is that people are doing to help them to release that anger, to release the emotion, to break free of the cycle. Ultimately, is what you're doing, is stopping that ongoing cycle it is that you're experiencing, that not everybody necessarily knows about, but you're struggling with day on day. And
I didn't even know I was struggling with it until I did this EMDR therapy. I've done all kinds of therapy. I've done the reasoning and the talking, as I said, and it was just like when I went into this EMDR, my body was doing the talking, not me. Wow. My throat would close up. I would literally shake with rage, with my tears coming out my eyes, and I still couldn't verbally express it. All I could say to her was, my throat's tightening up. I'm fighting against being violent because I'm not violent, but I feel like I need to, go back to when I was 15 and deal with that situation differently, because it's lived with me all my life and it's been suppressed, and I've never dealt with my emotions. So for me, part of the proper recovery for me is to allow myself to feel. And, lots of people don't like seeing angry people. And I get it. I don't either. But if you just suppress the anger, it's going to come out somewhere and somehow. So you have to express it. And there's different ways of expressing it. Hopefully not through your fists in a relationship, people. So if you're finding yourselves in a relationship where you are using your fists against someone else, or you're on the receiving end of that, you don't have to put up with it. You need to get help, because that's not the answer. It's not the answer. But we do have to have a safe place where we can talk about this stuff and where we can actually do what we need to do to get ourselves out of that cycle.
Yeah. As you were talking, containment just came to mind. Containment and just having a sense of containment, a space. So what your experience, maybe that rage is a little bit more contained than it would be normally. So it's like having, as you said, you go for therapy, you go for the EMDR, and it's contained in a safe space. And it's like you know what you're walking into. So you're going into your session and you're going into a contained space, you're leaving it there, and then you're coming back out again. There was something, it's just trying to stop that ripple effect of trauma and of abuse and the continuation of it. Because if you're not addressing it, if you're not dealing with it, not only is it impacting you, although you probably don't realize it, but it is happening, you'll also be impacting other people as well. But you just won't realize that impact is rippling outwards. I think once you can move into that safe space of containment, whatever that is, then you actually stop that ripple effect, and you can take responsibility for what it is that whatever it is you're experiencing. But it's not easy, it's not it's not easy, but it's well worth it. Let's leave with that.
So.
No.
Yeah, I think so. More at peace with life.
Yeah, it's not easy, but it is something that you absolutely need to work through and step forward and take a stand for yourself. Basically, take a stand for yourself, work through it, and just know that it's not easy, but it's necessary.
Yeah, and I felt quite alarmed at sharing that example experience with everybody, but I just think that people need to realise that it's okay to be able to actually face up to your real things that need to be dealt with. Because I just thought in therapy, no, I can't do that because she, what if she reports it to the police? What if she thinks that I'm going to go and do it, which I'm not? I will never do that. But I'm actually feeling this and thinking this. So where do I put it? So when she said no, absolutely 100% share it with me, I just felt such a relief.
Do you feel like that's some of the conditioning that you might have had when you were younger? The fear? Yeah. Because as I'm listening to you, I'm listening to you, I'm thinking what you're sharing is perfectly natural. I'm not thinking, oh my God, I need to be worried that I'm not thinking that at all. That's why I asked the question. Because I'm not thinking that. I'm thinking it's a perfectly normal reaction to have. Acceptable, normal, whatever normal is. Reasonable, understandable. Of course, it makes perfect sense to me. Makes perfect sense to me.
I think if you can't express how you're feeling, you implode, you explode. It's that simple. And your emotions have got to be placed somewhere. And in a safe space is the best place.
Yeah. Like that, in a safe space is the best place. It's a nice little tagline.
Yeah, there you go.
Well, thank you, Chris, for sharing. I really appreciate it. And I really also appreciate the work it is that you're doing, because I know you're involved in a lot of big policy and, really constantly helping to raise the bar on the conversation of the deafening silence of child sexual abuse. So I really, obviously, I don't do that sort of thing. It's just too much for me. I can do this and I can write books and have people share their story, but you have to, as you said, you need to know your boundaries. But I just wanted to say thank you for all the hard work it is that you are doing in the arena.
Thank you. But thank you for putting this on as well, because sharing all the different kind of experiences that people are having, something will resonate with somebody, and that's all we can ask for, really.
Absolutely. Yeah, I completely agree with you. It's not going to be everyone's cup of tea, that's for sure. But it will hit the right person who needs to hear it, which is all we can ask for, really.
Yes, exactly.
Right then, love.
All right, love. Are we done?
We're done. That's a wrap.
We have to lay down.
I was thinking, oh no, I hope we didn't go too deep. Oh
well, but you know what? I'm so sick and tired, Wendy, of things trying to be fitting in a perfect box. You need to act this way. You need to be doing this. You need to be doing that. I've done that all my life. Being abused within the home. If you react to your abuse by crying or whatever, you're going to get more violence. Yeah. If you speak back to me, you're going to get more violence. If you don't answer me when spoken to, you're going to get more violence. Yeah. Where do people expect me to put all of that? I did suppress it for 12 long years, but I was bulimic, so I wasn't suppressing it. Yeah. It comes out in some way. Yeah. As you said, it leaks. Yeah. So when I'm working with professionals, they turn around and said, you've got an absolute right to be angry. You've got an absolute right to feel how you do, but you've got no right to put that on other people. Yeah. Physically, mentally, emotionally. So you have to deal with that stuff. And if it means doing what I did in my therapy, then that's what's got to happen. And it doesn't fit pretty in any box. I don't like me even talking about being violent. I hate it. But I had to go there for my recovery.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm getting...
No, you're right. It doesn't... I think to recover and heal, you have to do what's right for you. You have to do, as you said, you have to do what's right for you and best for you, as long as it doesn't affect and hurt other people.
Yeah.
It doesn't fit in a box. No, but it doesn't fit in a box. It doesn't belong in a box. That's the whole problem. It's been in a bloody box for way too long. That's the whole problem.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right.
Got to actually come out of the box, not be in the box.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Wendy.
I think the thing is that it's just a journey. It's trauma recovery and healing. I look at it like alcoholism or drug addiction. It's an ongoing recovery journey that happens over years and years. Sometimes I have periods of years when I'm absolutely fine, happy, dandy, and then something will happen, then I will have a complete breakdown and I'll just be taken off out of the game for like a couple of months or 6 months, and I'm quite ill. So it's just, you just deal with what's presenting and what you're struggling with now.
Absolutely, 100%.
Deal with the here and now, what you're being presented with in the here and now, and take responsibility for that. But
ability
it's an ongoing
to respond differently, ongoing journey.
It's an ongoing journey. Don't fit it in a box. Don't try and put it in a box. Don't try and put your recovery in a box, because it's not where it belongs. It needs expression, whether that's through the voice, through the body, however it is. It needs expression. It needs to be released. It needs to be shared. And it absolutely needs to be told. Your story needs to be told.
Yeah.
Now I'm going to go.
Okay. Thank you.
We can't help ourselves, can we? We just want to keep going. I know we do. Right.
But you've got too many other interviews to do, so you better cut me off.
I have, so I've got to go. Bye.
Bye.
Bye, Chris. Take care. Thank you, by the way.
You're welcome.
You.